see the real Megan, let me know. What's going on, you guys? My name is Megan. Welcome to This Past Romance. This is my YouTube channel. I talk to you guys about romance books. And today is my July wrap-up. These are all the books that I read in July. There's not many. I did a mid-month wrap-up this month. I have not done one of those in forever. But I did a mid-month wrap-up this month. And there's not many books. I didn't read many more books. Not that it matters. But it's John Mayer's fault.
Ah. Okay. I will agree with that.
I'm going to talk to you guys about the books that I read after my mid-month wrap-up. And then we're going to go back through and I'm going to tell you guys what got what rating. I'm going to talk about them in a rating standpoint. So for the last half of August, the first book that I read was Not That Kind of Guy by Andie J. Christopher. I read Not the Girl You Marry by Andie J. Christopher earlier this year because Jack is supposed to be like Chris Evans, and he is. So this is the second book in the series, Not That Kind of Guy, and I've read both of these now. I've got one more book to read, and then I'm going to read Hot Under His Collar by Andie J. Christopher. Not That Kind of Guy was significantly better than Not the Girl You Marry. I loved Not That Kind of Guy. There is a content warning for abortion. Abortion is discussed. But this book follows Bridget and Matt. It is an older woman, younger man. She is an attorney and he is her intern at her law firm that she works for. And they end up having like a fake relationship, but there's always like been this spark, and he goes with her to actually Jack and Bridget's engagement party in Vegas, or bachelorette. They have a combined bachelorette party. Matt ends up going with Bridget to this. And this book, somebody else said it, and I don't remember who, so I can't give them credit, but it is pretty much the proposal and what happens in Vegas rolled into one book. So I really enjoyed it. Those are two fantastic movies. I especially love The Proposal. Bridget's ex is an absolute douche nozzle. That is word for word verbatim what I have in my notes. Also, the pop culture references are very Megan pop culture references. So there's a reference to Julia Sugarbaker. I love designing women. I love Julia Sugarbaker. If I could be any Southern woman on television, I would be Julia Sugarbaker. I love her. There's also a discussion of Olivia Benson. I've been watching Law & Order SVU since well before I should have ever been watching Law & Order SVU, thanks to my aunt, who babysat me regularly. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this so much. Next is a book that I told you guys I was going to read, and actually the way it kind of happened was funny, how this kind of came about. But I read Isn't It Bromatic by Lyssa K. Adams. This is Vlad the Russian's book. I love the Russian. I love the Russian. Vlad has been my favorite secondary character in all of these books, and that carried over in Isn't It Bromatic. He is fantastic. It is no secret I love this whole series. However, I did expect Vlad's book to bypass Gavin and Thea. It did not. Gavin's book is still my favorite book, and I think it's because Gavin has a speech impediment, and I think it's adorable. If you listen to it on audio also, it is fantastic. So I told you guys I bought this book, like I pre-ordered it last year, and I had a whole issue with the pre-order, and it wasn't anyone's fault but mine. And I thought it was everybody's fault but mine, and then I figured out what happened. And then I ended up actually purchasing the audiobook so that I could get through it faster. And I absolutely loved it. I read it in less than a day. Couldn't send it to my mom. If you were on the live where I was like, I have to read this tonight so I can send it to my mother, it wouldn't let me. I couldn't loan it to her. So she had to go buy it anyway. So I hurried and read it for no reason. But it was fantastic. Vlad is the biggest softie in the world, and he decides he's going to write a romance novel, and he's been working on it. So if any of the boys in the Bromance Book Club were going to write a novel, it was going to be Vlad. Like, just makes sense. It just, and if you've not read them and you read them, by the time you get to Noah's book, it just makes sense that Vlad would be the one to actually write a novel and have it published, right? So I loved it. And then a surprising read coming out of left field here was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. I don't know why I hadn't read this book, and I don't know why I thought I wouldn't like it. I loved it. I absolutely love this book. This book follows Clara and Josh. So Clara is in love with a man named Everett, and first of all, I can only think of the guy from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Tell me you're from the South without telling me you're from the South. I can only think of the dude from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, because when I was in elementary school, we watched that movie constantly. We should not have. We watched that movie all the time. So I can only think of Everett from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. But Clara moves to LA to live with Everett because she's in love with him. And she's like, if I do this, he has to fall back in love with me, right? Like, he has to fall in love with me too. So she gets there and Everett's like, what up? I'm leaving. My band's going on tour. I found this random dude on Craigslist. So you're going to live with him. He's going to pay rent. You don't have to pay rent. He's going to pay rent. But he's going to be your roommate. And she has no idea who he is, and he ends up being a really popular porn star. I loved it. I love Josh. I love the way the book ended. I love Josh. And I love the business that they started together. I really loved that aspect of this book. Like, we're gonna start this business, and this is what the business is gonna be. The funding of Shameless Man. Here for it. And last, because again, thanks to John Mayer, I didn't read that much this month. I read A Vella Vines by Tillie finally. I'm not going to solve my KU TBR. This book follows Carissa and Achille and Zeno, kind of. So basically they are part of the old Italian monarchy. It's not been around for centuries. But Carissa is a duchess by like the old standards, and they run in this social circle where those standards are still lived by. So if you were a duchess, if you would have been a duchess had the monarchy still been around, you're a duchess now. So there's like viscounts and viscountesses, princes and kings and queens. And so Carissa is supposed to marry Zeno, who is the prince. And Carissa's dad has arranged this marriage because Carissa's family went into business with Zeno's family. They're winemakers. And Zeno takes her to this one property that his family owns. And he's like, this is where we make your favorite wine. I thought you would enjoy it here. And she's like, cool, yeah, oh my God. She meets the dude that makes the wine. Tillie Cole, you do not disappoint, honey. You have not disappointed me yet. This book was fantastic. The plot twist at the end, I called it 40% of the way in. Definitely called it about 60% of the way in. And at 70% of the way in, I texted Tamika and I said, hey, I'm not going to tell you what book it is because I don't want to tell you what plot twist it is, but just know that this is how this situation is going to end. And she was like, all right. Marked 10 minutes later, I texted her, I was like, called it. Also, Achille was dyslexic and had some other, I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically he struggles to hold a pencil. And she went to Rome and got like special grips, and she helped him learn to read and like showed him these tools because she has her master, just so happens to have her master's degree in this and helping people with dyslexia. And he like learns to hold a pencil, and she figures out he can't read. I figured that out really quickly too. Not that this was a mystery or anything, like it wasn't supposed to be a mystery book, but overall Vella Vines, fantastic. Okay, now let's rank these books, shall we? Let's do it. All right, so our 5-star books for the month: A Vella Vines by Tillie Cole, The Roommate by Rosie Danan, and The X-Talk by Rachel and Lynn Solomon. So those are our 5-star reads. 4.5 stars for Not That Kind of Guy by Andie J. Christopher. 4 stars goes to I Married a Lizardman by Regine. The Marriage Contract by Katee Robert, Forbidden Fling by Kat Taylor, and Isn't It Bromatic by Lyssa K. Adams. I know, I'm shocked too. And then finally, at 3.5 stars, is Roomies by Christina Lauren. I went back and I thought on that book because I read that book in the heat of a moment, where I was mad at another Irishman, and my opinions didn't change. I'm still mad at how that book ended. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Guys, I read what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I read 9 books in July. I read 9 books in July. And I 100% normally would take all of the blame, but Sobrock came out. And I'm a huge John Mayer fan, so I take none of the blame and I blame John Mayer. Ask Tamika, who has also been obsessively listening to Sobrock, maybe more than I have, because I have branched out just a little bit. So anyway, that's it for me, you guys. As always, take care of yourself, make sure you're being good to yourself, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.